have to have a picture with my girls because I like to look at them, so I always have that. Okay, so your student, today was the first day that I gave marks for not coming prepared and things like that. So today was the first day for that, but they've been doing a really good job. Just after that first week, they knew what they were supposed to bring, and then we practiced it all last week, and they're doing a really good job. So to come to my class every day, they come with their notebook, their folder, which they can share with Mrs. Altenheim's class, the social studies class. Then in their pencil pouch, they should have pencils, eraser, I don't care if it's attached or not, glue and scissors, and then they should always come with a book to read. They'll get books, they have to read so much for their reading teacher. And whether that be Mrs. Farlow or Mrs. Meyer, they have to read so much, so they should always come with that. But the big one is glue and scissors, because we cut and glue a lot. And so they right now have glue sticks, but I always make the suggestion that if they run out of, like their glue stick runs out, to maybe buy bottled glue if you think your kid can handle bottled glue, because it lasts longer. And what's my saying? Just a...
Not a lot.
There we go. Okay, you got it. Okay, so are there any questions about what they need to come prepared for their classroom? Okay. Interactive notebooks. So there isn't an actual textbook. We just started, or we're about halfway through now, outside the solar system, and so they get these little paper books, and I have a classroom set of them, so we use them all day. But they don't really need their paper book to study at home. Everything they need is in their notebook. We glue it into their notebook. So if they want to study for a test, I would suggest they use their notebook rather than using the textbook. Okay, so I treat their notebooks like their textbook. Excuse me. So everything we do is glued into that notebook. So every activity we do, all the discussion questions that we do, all of that is glued into that notebook. And so I tell the students that they should keep them nice and neat and tidy. We don't want a lot of papers hanging out the tops and sides when they close them, because if that happens, that's an easy way for a paper to get ripped out and then it's missing. And they get grades. Part of their grade is a notebook grade. We do everything in the notebook in class. So it's one of those, should be an easy A+ grade, because if you're in class and you do the notebook, then at the end of the test, or right before the test, I look and I make sure everything's in there, and if it is, you get that participation grade. So it's a 10-point grade for participating in class those times. If you're absent, then that's usually what I tell you is your homework that night, is to make up what we did in class that day. So, there are questions about the notebook? Okay. The study log is usually the big one, so I have like 3 slides here for that, just to kind of explain what the study log is. And so, Christian, I get to use yours because you sat in front. Okay. So, in the back of their notebook, on the back cover, hopefully you've all seen this for at least a week now, because they should have had initials in each of these squares, and then even for yesterday. So every weeknight, Monday through Friday, they're to study 10 minutes. There'll be a few times when I say you don't have to, because we just had a test and you don't have new flashcards or something like that. But I will let them know. But they're to study 10 minutes, record their 10 minutes, so they write down the 10 on that little line. Then they bring it to you and have you initial just inside that box. So you initial inside that box saying that yes, you know they studied. And then after each quiz or test, I'm going to use you again, okay? So after each quiz or test, over here on the side, they will write their score. So they just had a quiz, so they should have their score from quiz 1 right here. It's not in the grade book, because I don't want eligibility to matter off of 1 grade. I'd rather me have a few grades before I put it in the grade book for eligibility. So now you know what they did on their quiz, since it's not an STS yet. This is the fastest way to find out their score, because I only do grades once a week. Okay. And then just today, since it was the first day of the week, I checked their study log from last week, And if they had all 5 initials, they get a 5 out of 5. If they only had 4, they get a 4 out of 5, and so on. Let's say they're absent. They still have to make up those 10 minutes. However, let's say Christian's absent today and he's just so sick, he really can't do anything. He can't study tonight. Well, then tomorrow night he can study for 20 minutes and write 10 down for each night and just have someone initial on those 2 to kind of make up that time. However, let's say they were absent today and we did work in our notebook. Then, if they're spending 10 minutes or more making up notebook work from that day, that can count as their 10 minutes of study time. So it's not like they have to do 30 minutes of notebook work and then 10 more minutes of studying. That can count as that time. And the reason I met with Mrs. Smith last year and we kind of came up with this method, the reason we did this was to, one of the big things, there were a lot of parents last year that were just like, I never know what my kid's doing in science. They don't bring anything home. What are they doing in science? So this was a good way to communicate between the student and the parent what they're doing in science at that time. Especially because they were like, we don't have a textbook. What are you doing? It also allows you quicker access to the quiz and test scores because they write them down right then and there instead of waiting till the end of that week when I put them on SDS. It also eliminates those cram sessions. You know, sometimes people will wait and the night before the test they'll study for an hour or an hour and a half. But then if you ask them in a week, they've kind of forgotten about some of that stuff. So the goal of this is if you study 10 minutes every night, then you're actually going to absorb that information and learn that information a little bit more than just those cram sessions. And then also a big one is to encourage student responsibility. They're in 5th grade now, so it's starting to help and encourage that. And so with that, I will not accept parent notes or emails. So part of their responsibility is to take that notebook home. So let's say they forgot it that one night, or say they forgot to take it home this weekend, and they know this morning when they come to me, I'm going to take their grade for last week. And so you send me an email saying, well, they did study. I can't take those because that was part of their responsibility to make sure they brought their notebook home. So they do have to do that. So are there any questions about the study logs? No? Okay. The vocabulary quizzes. There's going to be 2 each book. Did any of my kiddos in here, did you notice anything exciting?
We get to do the quiz on Thursday.
Yeah! So I wasn't sure if the quiz was going to be tomorrow or Thursday. It depended on how far we got. We didn't get as far as I wanted to, which is fine because we had lots of good questions. So the quiz is until Thursday. Yay! Okay, so their second quiz with over the 6 words, and they can always be found in their notebook. So they'd go to section 2, and we'll be doing these tomorrow in class, reviewing them more, practicing with them tomorrow in class. These 6 words here, this is the second section. Those are what are going to be on their quiz on Thursday. And it's matching, so it's not like they have to memorize the definition word for word. They'll have the words on one side and the definitions on another, and they just have to match them. And to study for vocab quizzes, my recommendation is they all have flashcards. I would have taken the 7 and the 6, and now that we've taken this quiz, I put them to the side. I keep them, but I put them to the side, and I just study those 6 for that quiz. And as soon as that quiz is done, that's the end of the quizzes, so I put them all together to study for the test. So then I will study for the test with all of the words. Now all the words are on the test, but they're still separated. So you'll have section 1 words up here and section 2 words up here. They are separated. Once they do that, and I'll show you Quizlet in just a little bit, but Quizlet is a great way to study for vocab, especially before the test, because it puts all the words together. And they're fun little games on there. So are there questions about the quizzes? The test, there's 1 test per book. Their test tentatively, it depends on how long the lab takes us that we're going to do, but it's looking like it'll probably be next Thursday. And so they can use their notebook, their flashcards, and the online review games to study for these tests. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, it does it every time. There we go. So you can go to my website. I have it posted up here for the kids in classroom on the handout that you can grab. My website's listed on that as well. And so if you go to Learning Games and Links, then underneath 5th grade, and the kids have used Review Game Zone. If I think almost all the 4th grade teachers last year used it. If not, I'm going to show you real quick. They have to remember this code. So they go to Review Game Zone, and then just over here, they type in that ID number, that code that I have listed, and they hit find, and it'll say the title of the book, as you'll say Outside the Solar System, and any of those games they can play. And those games help them, let me come back here. Those games help them with this portion of the test, so the multiple choice questions, if they have any charts or interactive fill in the blank type questions. And there's always one extended response question on each test, so it will help them on those. To help them with their vocabulary, oh no.
Oh my God.
To help them with their vocabulary, that's where they want to go to Quizlet. So you go to Quizlet, and up in the search, you just type that J.W. Jones 11 like you saw, and I'm the cute little puppy dog. And then you can just start typing the title of the book, and it shows up right there. And so they have flashcards here. They can actually test themselves. They can play the game Match or the game Gravity. Depending on the device, one of the games doesn't always work, but they have all those options to study their vocabulary. So does anybody have any questions about the tests? Okay. And then if you haven't signed up for Remind yet, all of the 5th grade teachers use this as a quick and easy way to just give you some information. Such as this morning I used it to introduce the STAR student for this week. I think I used it to remind people about tonight. And I've also used it on the weekends to send out a fun little activity that the students could do that's science related if they'd like. So if you haven't signed up for Remind, we would love it, love it, love it if you would. And this kind of shows you how. If you need help, I can help you too on how to do that if you haven't seen it. So, does anybody have any questions for me? And you can always stay after too if you want to ask me then. Well, I want to thank you so very much for coming. I know you have tonight and then there's also tomorrow night. But since I am a 6th grade homeroom teacher, I go to the 6th grade parent orientation. So this was what I felt was the easiest way for me to communicate with you. There's a lot of changes between 4th grade science and 5th grade science. And so I want to make sure that everybody, we're on the same page and that we communicate. If you ever need anything, definitely email me. That's the fastest way. If you can't, then a phone call is fine. But I will definitely get back with you within the day if you email me. And again, like I said, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Make sure to take a mint if you haven't, or take 2 or 3, I don't care. And again, I will see you around and all that little stuff. So, thank you.